Today, we are going to discuss Madhupindika Sutta, the honeyboard Sutta. I think we have mentioned it several times. I believe that most of you know this sutta by heart, at least major part of it, you know by heart. But still I like to draw your attention to this discourse. When you listen and read the same discourse again and again, you learn a lot of new things. So, I know that for myself, when I read the same sutta, first time I understand a little bit. When I read it again, I understand a little more. And I read it again, understand even more. So that is how we increase our understanding. And therefore, even though you know it by heart, or at least part of it, it is better for us to spend some time discussing the same discourse. So one day, the Buddha, living in Kapilavastu, Nidrodhara Park, and then one day he dressed up and went in the path to Kapilavastu. Pindapata Charita, Patyabhatta Pindapata Patikanto. Patyabhatta Pindapata Patikanto means it has been translated into sceneries. Pasupati. Pasupati, yeah, meaning refusing to go on the Pindapata in afternoon. Refusing to go on Pindapata in afternoon. That is a wrong translation, mistranslation. Patyabhaddham Pindapata Patikanto means Patikantakam. You never hear the word Patikantako returning or refusing. For refusing is in Pali Patikritva or Patikhepati. Patikanta you learn in meditation, Abhikante, Patikante, going forward and going backward. Backward doesn't mean that you look at that way and then go. He went to Mahavana, great food, great food. Very much to spend under tree in forest and so forth alone after meals. Most of the time we hear that. That means he needed some time to rest after eating. So when he was sitting under a tree, there was a man called Dhamma. He belonged to Sakya clan. He is known as Dandapani. Danda means stick, cane, walking stick. Pan means hand. He is carrying a walking stick. Not because he was old, but just to show off his life. You know? And then very elegant man. He went and when he also was going for a walk with a walking stick. And then he ran into the Buddha sitting under a tree. And he was arrogant, not very humble, and therefore we look at the Buddha. In sarcastic tone, he asked the Buddha, what does the recluse ascetic asset? What does she proclaim? You know? Meanwhile, someone cannot die, then Buddha, from his tone, he knew that this is an arrogant person. In order to humble him, Buddha gave a very, very confused answer, muddled with many words. So this man, spun his head fast. Buddha said, friend, when you listen to it very carefully, mindfully, you will get the essence of it, meaning of it. But if arrogant and not concentrated, mind is, running here and there with conceptual proliferation, you won't get meaning. This is what Buddha said. Friend, I accept and proclaim my teachings in such a way that one does not quarrel with anyone in the world with its gods, its Maras, and its Brahmas, in this generation with its recluses and Brahmins. It is its princes and its people, in such a way that perceptions no more underlie that Brahmin who emerged detached from sensual pleasures without perplexity, shorn of worry, free from craving for any kind of being. You see, if you remove most of these words, like Maharaj, Brahmas, generations of people, recluses, Brahmins, princes, and people, and all these things you remove, the message is this. I want he did not say view. I want a way. So he asked what he believes. Buddha did not tell him anything that he believed. He said, I hold a way, proclaim a way that one does not quarrel with anybody. That is the essence of the answer. Anybody in the world, then he filled the world with people. filled with people. What kind of people means? Maharaj, Brahmas, and so forth, he filled in. So, Dandapani got confused. And then, Dandapani, when this was said, Dandapani saw and shook his head, wagged his tongue, and raised his eyebrows until his forehead was puckered in 3 lines. 3 lines appeared on his forehead. Can you do that? I can do that. 3 lines on the forehead. That means, my goodness. How can I understand this? In order to express his view, his confusion, he did that. And then he departed leaning on the stick. He was putting his chin on the stick, and then he Buddha silenced him very quickly. And Dandapani actually was, he belonged to another sect, Devadatta sect. And Devadatta was very angry with the Buddha because he was the one who said to the Buddha that was Bhu Mahu. He said, in other places, he said, he married my cousin, Yasodhara. By doing so, he had a child. And he took the child also and owed him. So that is the end of our Sankirtan. Eventually, she did not marry another person. She also became a nun. So, this Gautam Buddha was our family enemy. And that was what he preached to other people. Devadatta. And Dandapani was one of the disciples of him. That's why he also has this grudge against the Buddha. And that is why when he saw the Buddha, he asked this sarcastic question in a sarcastic way. So, Buddha did not care, let him go, let him go. It did not hurt him at all, because he is the Buddha. When it was evening after resting in the great forest for a while, and then got up and went to the monastery, and then the monks were there waiting for the Buddha. As soon as he arrived there, Buddha said to the monks, Nibrodha, where he sat down on a seat made ready for him, and told the bhikkhus what had taken place between him and Dandapani. So Buddha expected somebody to ask the Buddha to explain the meaning of this. So one monk, then a certain bhikkhu asked the Blessed Dhamma, not everyone Ananda. Normally it is Ananda who asks the Buddha to explain things. In this case, perhaps Ananda understood it. In the world with his gods, Maras, and so forth and so on. And when it was how is it that perception of unlike the Brahmin who was detached from the sensual pleasures, without perplexity, show no worry, free from craving for any kind of things. So this Bhikkhu asked the Buddha this question. Then Buddha added few more words. Even this monk also got confused. All the monks, he added few more words. If nothing is found there, they have to rely in welcome and hold true. This is the end of underlying tendency to lust. Now he gives 7 underlying tendencies, anusayas. 7 anusayas. What are the 7 anusayas? They are given here. At least it is good for us to understand this. Especially those who have heard. I brought it in heard also. These are the anusayas. ऐसे मतलब raga and this way the way that Buddha was holding and teaching is such a perfect teaching. It describes or ascribes to Nibbana. It ascribes to Nibbana. These are the qualities that you find only in Nibbana after attaining enlightenment. What are they? Underlying tendency to lust, anusaya. Underlying tendencies to aversion, patida anusaya. Underlying tendency to wrong views. Any view is an underlying tendency. This is the end of the underlying tendency to doubt. The end of underlying tendency to conceit, or the underlying tendency to desire for beings, or the underlying tendency to ignorance. Now, there are defilements have layers. On the top layer, we have hindrances. 5 hindrances. We overcome them by attaining jhanas. When we come out of them, they rise again. Again, we attain it, they subside, and then they rise. It is under these hindrances, there is a whole network of roots underground, under hindrances. That's called asava. Kamasa, vamasa, ditasa, vidyasa, asava. Oh. And so long as they are there, hindrances will arise. As long as they are there, hindrances arise. That is why Buddha said, Yathapi Mule Anupadhyaveda Chinno Dukko Punarevijuvati. Evam Vitananase Anuvate Nimbadiri Dukkamidam Punapuna. As long as you don't uproot the root of a tree, the tree will grow again. When hindrances are there, hindrances arise because underlying tendency of asava. Asavas don't get rid of asava, other underlying tendencies. Underground. My favorite example was a bamboo tree. There was a monk here who planted a bamboo shoot right behind my window. I told him, don't plant bamboo shoot here because it will grow and block my view through the window. He said, no, this is from Asia, this is America. He doesn't. I said, this bamboo doesn't recognize the country of politics. Wherever you plant it, it grows. So long as the temperature is right, even in the winter. Sure enough, about a year, it grows so big, see over there, block my view through the window. Then I said, see, this is what I told you. He felt so bad, he got a bulldozer to move it. After removing, after another 6 months, another shoot came out. And he felt so bad, he took another bow and did him by over. Again, it took out. Third time, there was a resident woman. And in the morning, after breakfast, she started digging. He dug and dug and dug and dug and dug and found this long root. Once he removed it, it never grew again. So this asanas are like that. Interests arise so long as asanas are there. Even if you remove asanas, there are other tendencies called anusaya. 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 Anu means together with saya means sleep. Anusaya. Sleeping together with the mind. And these are the seven anusayas. What are they? They are underlying tendencies called lust, aversion, views, doubt, conceit, desire for being, and ignorance. Until these anusayas are removed, then they can arise again. Asava can arise, hindrances can arise. And therefore the Buddha said when views are completely eliminated in I got a quotation from Mahagadhi Suttamikata. He says, Sanya Viratasa Nasanti Ganta, Panya Vimatasa Nasanti Moha. Sanya Dikti Jaya Abdahesum, Te Gatayante Gatyanta Vicharanti Loke. That means when a person has perception, recognition, then when the person is removed all again, Sanya Viratasa Nati Ganta. When he removed it, no knots. Ganta, this knot will not be there. And when somebody is liberated from wisdom, through wisdom, when one liberates from through wisdom, there is no ignorance. But when somebody is holding perception and views, will move in the society nothing, with conflict. They live with all kinds of conflict, says in Nagandi Sutta, at the end. Anyway, so that we are listening to him. And he said, all this, then this is the end of resorting to rods, weapons, or quarrels, brawls, and disputes. That means when these hindrance, underlying tendencies are there, we have all these problems. When they remove from the mind, there is no view. There is no view. And therefore, when there is no view, that is the end of quarrel, fight, taking clubs, guns, weapons, war, making bombs, dropping bombs, killing people. All this will stop. All this will stop. So Buddha addressed this not for that, for 2,600 years ago people, he addressed this to for the rest of the existence. Discrimination, malicious words, false speech, here these evil, unwholesome states cease without remainder. Then there is no will. All this will end. This is the description of the state of mind of Arhat. This state of mind does not have ordinary people. And Buddha said this, that's all. And he got up and went to his kuti. Buddha did this many times. Why he did that? He gave a very brief statement without, loaded with meaning, but without explaining, he got up and went to the kuti. Several times he did that. Why he did that? Buddha was so compassionate. He wanted other monks to talk to each other, discuss Dhamma, and prepare themselves to be teachers, prepare themselves to good monastics. And therefore, he gave the summary, and then they began to discuss. What does it mean? What does it mean? How do you understand? When they cannot find a solution, then they find another one who is more learned, wiser, and who can explain things clearly. So this monk said, well, Buddha gave us a very profound discourse and summary of it he gave, but we don't know, we cannot understand who is capable of explaining these things in detail so that we can understand it. Then they thought, then they considered that whenever Mahakasava is held by the teacher and esteemed by his wise companions in the holy life, he is capable of expounding the detailed meaning. Suppose we went to him and asked him the meaning of this. Now, whenever Mahakasyana, although he can explain things more clearly, is not listed in Ekadatta Pali. In Anguttara Nikaya, there is a section where Buddha recognized someone who is head or chief of certain things. For instance, Samavati, women. Ekadava Pevama, Visagana Metavayana, Samavati. Because among the women, among the disciples of mine, those who practice metta, Samavati is number one. Like that he recognized the capability of certain person as the head, like you have class head, right? team leader and so forth. Buddha selected team leaders. But Mahakal, he did not recognize Mahakal as a bad life. Mahakal can. And then, however, among bhikkhus, among monks and nuns and lay people, Mahakatyana was famous for explaining the Dhamma more clearly. So these monks said to themselves, then let us go. They went to Mahakatyana and then he explained this, what they had heard from the Buddha, and then said, please explain this to us. Mahakatyana, showed little more value of this. He said, just, you're not going to give it right away, but just to make them feel humble. Then he said, well, friends, it is just like you find a hardwood and you pass huge tree and go and see the branches, leaves, and you leave the tree behind. Likewise, you left the Buddha behind and came to me asking, who am I? Who am I? I'm so simple, small fry. He's a whale and shark. I'm a small fry. Then this man begged him, please don't say that. Please, if it is not too difficult to inconvenient to you, please explain this. And when Mahakatyana spoke about ideas of the Buddha, that of course is not very unusual, that is true. Then Mahakatyana said, okay, since you are so insisting, so begging, let me explain, friends. He said, when the Blessed One rose from his seat and went into his dwelling after taking some and breath without external that is, okay, he repeated, because as to source through it, perception and notion born of mental proliferation, dissect the mind. Now, let me, if nothing is from there to delight in, welcome, fall to, this is the end of underlying conversation, and so forth. He repeated what the Buddha said. And then when the Mahakatyana, this is the very famous thing. I think this is what most of the monks who know Madhukendra Sutta remember. They remember this. Chakun Pati Rupetu Pachatu Vijana, Tignan Samiti Pasupati Vedana, Yang Vedi Tam Sanjanati, Yang Sanjanati Tam Vitaketi, Yang Vitaketi. Tato Nidana Vitaketi, Yang Vitaketi Tam Papancheti. Tam Papancheti. Okay? Tato Nidana Purusha. Papanchanya Santa Samudra Charanti. Atita Navita Kartya Pranati Chakuni Rupesu. This paragraph is very famous. You can see in section 12. I think it's very. I'll try a couple of minutes there, so let me finish this section and think. Now, three contact, and then when these three combine, always three things must come together to have contact. Tina Sangati Paso. What are three things? Eye, visual objects, consciousness and contact. When contact arises, feeling arises as you heard this morning, present, unpresent, or neutral. And then feeling. When feeling arises, depending on the feeling, what one has mentally, what one thinks about, okay, feeling. When one feels, what one perceives, then we perceive. We have to feel to perceive. We have to feel to perceive. Contact, as known as something contact us, we feel, then we begin to perceive. For instance, I close my eyes and there's no contact. Then I think, what is it? That is perception. Close your eyes and contact. Recognition. And then what one perceives, that one thinks about, then he think. What one thinks about, that one mentally proliferates. That is what Bhavana Sangarakita. What happened to Bhavana Sangarakita? You remember Bhavana Sangarakita's story? You may not remember that. He had a daydream while he was swamming his teacher. He gave a rope to his teacher. His teacher is very humble. He was living very simple life. He said, no, I don't need that. I am not good. No, please accept it, please. 3 times he requested, he did not accept it. Finally he thought, I see my teacher doesn't like me. Why should I pay him? I must disrobe. While he's standing, I must disrobe. I must disrobe. After disrobing, I find that she goes and she gives birth to babies. Then I get milk and I sell it, make little money and get a wife. And after some time she delivers a baby. Then I want to see the Buddha, my teacher. And on the way we came by a car, your car. And I wanted to carry the baby. She insisted she wanted to carry the baby. And suddenly she dropped the baby and he woman hit his wife, thinking that he hit his teacher with the fan. Then he asked him, Bhavana, what have I got to do with your wife's problem? With embarrassment. That is what happens when you have mental proliferation. That means when we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch of something in the past, this continues the mental proliferation, and they carry you. Besides a person, besides a man, meaning doesn't mean he is assailed. He will be dragged by this thought. Here it is clear in Pali, it is used in accusative case. Accusative case. In this is
Page 5. Page 5. Page 5.
Page 5, okay. विद्यार्थी प्रपंच
Maybe 16.
Ah,
Message number 16.
number 15.
Yeah, 16
16.
at the end.
Okay. Anyway, drag the person who is involved in this kind of thinking, his own thoughts will drag him to the past through the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. His thought will drag him to the future, not only this life. And Buddha said, therefore, in short, I don't have that kind of visualizing, imagination, views, ideas. I teach the liberation, freedom from all this. That is in brief what we are taught in this discourse. Friends, I think it is time for us to stop the discourse. As I said, this discourse is look superficially very simple, but it has a very profound, deep meaning that enters our real psychology. Our real psychology meaning. You don't have to think of quantum physics, you can see in this whole science of mind in this. Okay? Have a nice day.
So,